Hello out there, Project Open Mic audience. This is Andre, and this is another Andre's Mic segment. And I've wanted to kind of do a discussion about this for a long while, and I'm finally just getting around to it. And it's, again, utilizing my own personal experience and things that I've seen other people go through. And I kind of want to give my own perspective on why it is that men cheat. I mean, it's a general why people do it, why people will do it in general, because there's always something lacking in a relationship when that happens. It's either emotional, physical, something is lacking. There's some dissatisfaction somewhere in the relationship. That's a given. That's always the given. But the thing is, when it comes down to emotional, when there's an emotional lacking, that is something that I believe, I mean, physically it's also fixable. There are the few cases where the person that's cheating just wants to do it. I'm not denying that that's a possibility. But I think when it's an issue of dissatisfaction and you talk and communicate about it, it is something that can be corrected. And I hate this statement that once a cheater, always a cheater. I hate that statement because it is not true. Not for everyone. There's some people that do it, and then they are perfectly capable of not going back to it and correcting it. And then there are some people who do it multiple times, but they're still capable of going back and not doing it. It's more of a thing of being happy in the relationship. And satisfaction does not just mean sexual. Satisfaction means the complete relationship. How do you feel in a relationship? Do you feel satisfied with the relationship? Do you feel satisfied with communication? Do you feel satisfied with your closeness? Do you feel satisfied with the sex? Do you feel satisfied intellectually? A lot of that all plays in together. All of that plays in together. Do you feel satisfied in a relationship? And generally, when one person feels less satisfied than the other, because they may feel like they're being mistreated, they may feel like they're being ignored, they may feel like they're not getting what they originally signed on for. They may feel like their partner has changed and turned away from them. There's a number of reasons that this can happen. I'm not going to say that cheating is the answer to that, but I'm saying that there are reasons that it happens. It's not just everyone that does it is being malicious. Every person that does it is just out there just to get their rocks off. It's not how it works. Intellectually, you have to understand that not everybody does it because they want to do it. Some people do it because they don't feel like they have any other choice to do it. And before I get well, why not just leave comments? It's not always that simple. When you've invested your time, your energy into this person, you've given them your love, your dedication, your heart, your soul, you have put yourself into this person. It's not so simple as just walking away. Because pushing away from that person, especially when you've invested your time and your energy into them, or somebody you have kids with and you have been with them for a long period of time, walking away like that is like leaving a part of yourself. It's like cutting a part of yourself off and just leaving it there to die. And it hurts. It hurts a lot. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that pain. And I know that for a fact that a lot of people don't want to deal with that pain. And it's one of those things that happens. And sometimes someone is coming into a new relationship having bad experiences, and they'll do it trying to protect themselves, but end up hurting themselves. Taking my own personal experience and why I've done it. And for the most part, it came down to an emotional need for me. An emotional and psychological need of wanting to be with my partner, be with my wife, but not having my needs met, not being able to communicate about things I was interested in, not being able to talk about things that I liked, not being able to go out and have friends, not being able to have time to myself that was valuable to me, that I could do things that I really enjoyed doing. And sometimes that can be the key as to why someone will have issue. Like and throughout my marriage, I could feel my ex slipping from me. And I would tell her. Oftentimes I'd tell her, like, I feel like you're slipping from me. I feel like there's a part of you that's just completely locked off to me. And it makes it difficult for me to communicate with you. And I've said that to her multiple times. Just to hear you're trying to invalidate my feelings. You're trying to invalidate what I want. But then we'll come back and say, why don't you talk to me? Why don't you tell me what's wrong? But then when I tell you what's wrong, you will turn my words against me and say I'm trying to blame you for something that I'm not blaming you for. I'm trying to make known an issue that I have, and I'm trying to get you to talk to me about it. But then you don't want to hear it. And that happens. That can happen on both sides of the relationship, man and woman. That can happen on both sides. And often it does. And again, this is why I started looking into stuff with men and why suicide rates for men who are divorced are higher. And I discovered a lot of things. I'm like, all of these things are starting to add up to me. And again, I know these things happen with women too. It's not like it's something that doesn't happen with women. I know it does. For a fact, I know it does. But when people say, well, why, well, like, and it's just one of those things where it's like, why didn't you just leave the relationship? Again, it's extremely difficult to do that, especially when it's someone you deeply care for. It's not just simple as leaving. It isn't. It is not just as simple as leaving. Because you want to have that relationship with that person. You want to have that communication with that person. You want to be with them. And all you want is for them to just want to be with you. And you want to be able to spend time with them doing things that they like and doing things that you like. For me, it was largely that I felt like I was diminished into this corner. I was turned into less of me. I was far less of myself than I was when our relationship started. And towards the end, I kept hearing about things I used to do and things that I did do. Or I would hear, well, I went for a high five. Why are you kissing my hand? And then the moment I stopped to do that and I just give the high five, why did you just give me the high five? You would normally kiss my hand. That's mixed messaging. And that happened actually a lot in my own marriage. That happened a hell of a lot in my marriage. Where one thing was said, and then I would apply that thing, and then I'd hear, well, why did you do this? Instead of doing what you normally do. And it's like, whoa, really? So the things that I do, that I naturally do, that you will say you have annoyances with, if I don't do them, then you complain that I don't do it. And I can tell that happens a lot with a bunch of people, especially when it comes down to men. It happens a lot when we want to put our time into being with somebody, and the first thing that we hear is what we don't do right, and then we adjust, we adapt. And then what we hear after that is that we shouldn't have adjusted, we shouldn't have adapted, we shouldn't have listened. So it's like, what am I supposed to do here? Because I'm trying to show you that I'm paying attention, and I'm trying to show you that I want to be with you, but then you complain and argue with me over what I'm doing to be with you, and then complain and argue that I'm not doing it right. But then when I go to do it the way that you asked me to, you complain that that's not right and that I should have been doing it the way I did it before. So it's like, what do I do here that satisfies you, but I can still satisfy me too? I can still be what I want to be too. And I realize, like, being in a relationship with somebody who is like that, that changes you a lot, because you are trying to adhere to what they want and still trying to be who you are. And eventually those two things will clash, and it becomes mentally stressful. It becomes highly stressful. And stuff like that is easy to get yourself worked up. And you're like, well, what do I do to fix this? Like, and yeah, that can drive you to look to someone else. Especially if you've tried talking to your partner, you've tried multiple times talking with them. And every time you try talking with them, your emotional needs get pushed to the wayside for theirs, because they don't want to listen to you, and they don't want to adapt to what you need, but they want you to adapt to what they need. It's one-sided. And one-sided like that, in that way, where they're not willing to try to change for you. And I mean, I'm not saying change who they are. I'm talking about just, maybe go about not arguing the same way. Maybe calm down sometimes first, and then talk to the person that you're with, instead of flying off the handle at them and yelling and screaming. Or instead of, anytime they tell you when they're feeling emotionally down, they're feeling hurt, they're feeling bad, that you don't step on their feelings and say, well, you just want to blame me for everything then, right? Or, you're trying to diminish what my experiences or my feelings are by telling me what's wrong with you. Or you want pity. You want somebody to be simple. You want sympathy. You want people to pity you. That's not going to help your relationship in the least. That's really not going to help your relationship. That's actually going to cause more problems, because it's going to make your partner feel like they can't communicate. It's going to make them feel like they can't talk to you. And then they're going to shut down and close off. And then you'll complain and say, why aren't you talking to me? Perfect example of that. Personally, my own personal example, and it bugged the hell out of me when it came down to it. But it was years ago, I talked to my ex, and we were just chilling out in the living room. And I was looking up stuff on my computer, she was watching TV, and I had seen a note, like a thing popped up for a convention. It was either a video game or a comic book convention. And I wanted to go. No, it wasn't that. It was a movie. It was actually a movie I wanted to see. It was a comic book movie I wanted to see. And I wanted to go see the movie. So I brought it up to her that it was going to be coming out soon, and I would like to go. I would like her to go with me. The first response that came out of her mouth was, that stuff's stupid to me. I didn't grow up with it. I don't have any interest in it. Okay, cool. So that means I can't share this with you. And this is something I grew up with and something I have always appreciated. Because my family grew up allowing our imaginations to take over and coming up with different worlds and characters and things like that. And that's something that a lot of my family members have always done. And comic books are an expression of that. That's why we appreciate it so much. And different forms of art, like animations, cartoons, and stuff like that. We appreciate that type of stuff. And all I wanted to do was share that with her. And that was the response I got. It was an immediate shutdown of anything like that. And that made me not want to talk to her about it. Like, it didn't even open, there was no open room for discussion with that type of response. And it happened with multiple things I was interested in. Similar responses came. So then it comes down to, then what do I talk to you about outside of stuff that happens with our family and things that you're interested in? What do I talk to you about at that point? Well, yeah, then you start, like, and it might seem like simple stuff. But when these are things that, when you start to take interest in things, those things become part of who you are. And when you can't express that interest in those things, you start to draw into yourself. And at the time, I wasn't really talking to a lot of people. I didn't exactly have communication with very many of my friends. And most of the time, I couldn't talk to them. Because if I started talking to people, then it came down to, who are you talking to behind my back and about what? Which I never took that approach personally when it came down to my marriage. Like, I was like, if you want to have friends, cool, have your friends, go out with them, do what you would like to do with them. I'm here, I can take care of the kids during that time period. And that was always my stance. But it comes down to it, it's like, you don't want me to express who I am, but you want to express who you are. And then shut down anything I have to say or anything I would like to do. And that type of smothering environment is no good for anyone. It's no good for anyone. And that's a thing I will always say. It's no good for anybody. Because you need to be able to be with your partner and then be able to be without your partner. You need to be able to spend time with them and time away from them. And throughout most of my marriage, when I wasn't with my ex, I was with my kids. I didn't really go out to do anything. So it led me to feel neglected and diminished and treated as if I was nothing. And when that did happen, and I finally did have a chance to just be out, I did some stupid shit. I will fess up to that. I did very stupid things. Because I was seeking the attention that I wanted from her from someone else. And it generally led to, not always, but it did, I can't even say generally, but it didn't always lead to sex, but a few times it did. More times, however, it led to me talking to the other person and becoming emotionally involved with them. And then when I realized I was becoming emotionally involved with a lot of people, I cut contact off. Because I didn't want to be emotionally involved in someone else. And the few that I had those emotional involvements with, that I did sleep with, I ended up cutting them off immediately because I felt like dirt for doing it. So it's not as simple as just wanting to leave. It's like, I just want you to let me be who I am so I can be with you at full capacity and we can actually be happy. But that never really happened with my marriage. It just got to a point where, I wanted to do everything the right way. And the more I tried to, I felt like the more I got argued with. And there were so many times that I personally let's just put it this way. If my ex was watching TV or watching something that I really didn't give a crap about, I'd sit there and watch it with her. But if there was something I wanted to watch, it was just like an argument that I would want to watch it, or that I'd want to see it because she didn't know anything about it. And it was always this thought to me. I was like, I can catch you up. I can get you up to speed on this. I just want you there with me. That was really it. And it's just like, so I was literally just emotionally depraved for most of my relationship. And yeah, I was definitely shut down at a certain point where I shut down on everyone. I shut down on my family. I shut down on my friends. And she took it as an affront to her for some reason. Specifically as an affront to her, where I just shut everyone out. And there are a lot of relationships that happens in. Like, because I'm noticing the patterns of in other people that are the same patterns that I was exhibiting. So I'm very certain that with a lot of bad relationships, this is how it goes down for the most part. And this is what leads to a lot of the cheating. But the person that's been cheated on will be the victim. Without, and I'm not saying this is always the case, but without looking further into things, most people will just be like, well, shit, well, he or she shouldn't have done that. He or she should not have done what they did to you. They shouldn't have stepped out. And granted, I will agree. Should never happen. It shouldn't happen. But it does. And there's reason behind it. But everybody acts like just the action matters and not the reasoning behind the action. The reasoning to why something happens is just as important as it happening. Because if you can figure out the reason it happened, and you can correct the reason as to what caused it, you can fix the problem. But when you're not willing to listen to or hear out what the reason may be, then you're not helping your relationship any. And all you're doing really is hurting yourself and the person that you're with. And it's just how that works. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's how it is. And if you feel like you are in a bad relationship that could be a good relationship, maybe you should start thinking about those types of things. Like, am I being there for my partner in ways that they actually need me to be? Am I being emotionally supportive when they need emotional support? Am I being there for them just like because they want me to be there with them? Even if it's something I'm not interested in, am I being there with them for that? Am I allowing them the time to be who they are? Am I allowing them to be able to express themselves the way that they need to? Are we talking? Are we communicating openly? Are we keeping with each other an honest relationship? Are we upfront with each other about everything? Are we talking to each other on a consistent basis? Are we able to have disagreements but not fight each other? And honestly, that means a lot. Whereas a lot of women would assume when a guy cheats on her, he just wanted to go sleep with somebody. It's not always the case. Again, it can be the case. It's not always the case. And usually when women cheat, there is definitely something that they feel like they're lacking in their relationship. There are some women who just cheat for physical desire. I think I'll lean toward more men doing that. But most of the time when women cheat, there is an emotional aspect to it. And they emotionally will tie themselves to the man that they cheat with. Or the person that they cheat with. And I can't say that it's not true because I've witnessed it. I have thoroughly witnessed this. Men can emotionally shut themselves off for somebody that they've cheated on their partner with. They can do it. It's possible. It's highly possible. Especially if they didn't want to cheat on their partner in the first place. they can shut their emotions off to that other person, because at that point, that person is there just as a comfort tool. I know that sounds so harsh, but that's the straightforward truth of it. That person is a tool for comfort at that point. They aren't meaningfully in that other person's life. They are there as a tool to comfort. And that's the whole premise behind it. I know a lot of guys probably wouldn't openly admit it. That's the case. I know it was the case for me. And watching a lot of other people's patterns and things that I'm seeing all over the place, I'm pretty sure it's the case for a lot of guys, even if they won't say it openly. And it sucks when you just want to communicate with the person that you're with. You want to be involved with the person that you're with, and you want them involved in the things that you're interested in. You want them to be happy for you when you do something out of the ordinary, or that you want them to be happy that you took the time to do something nice for them and not question why you're doing it. Many times throughout my marriage, I would do something nice for my ex-wife, and then I'd get questioned as to why I'm doing it. I was like, it couldn't just be that I just wanted to do something nice for you. I just wanted to show you that I appreciate you. Nope. It generally got looked at like there was a hidden agenda of some kind. And it bothered the hell out of me. Where every so often, like, I could do something nice for her, and I saw an opportunity to do it, so I did it. Then it just got to a point where I stopped, because I didn't like being accused of constantly being accused of doing something wrong, when all I wanted to do was show the person that I'm with that I care about them. No one wants that. No one wants to constantly be asked, oh, so you bought this for me? Why did you do that? Oh, so you made this picture for me? Why did you do that? Oh, you wrote this poem for me? Why did you do that? Oh, you cleaned up the house so I didn't have to come in and do it? Why did you do that? Do you understand how that feels to someone? When all they're trying to do is just do something nice for you, and they just want to show you appreciation, and the first thing that they get out of you is, why did you do that? That's emotionally damaging. That is very damaging. And it killed you. 'Cause you're like, all I'm trying to do is just be nice. I just want you to know I care about you. But all you get is, why did you do that? This is why I kind of want to open up discussions like this, and I want to have a dedicated men's mental health group for this type of stuff for guys. Because I know there are groups for women that go through this, that can have those talks, that can have the discussions and air that out to other people. There aren't a lot of groups like that for men. There are an extreme, slim amount of them. And it's just like in the last discussion I had. It's a societal thing. It's built in. It's baked into us. It doesn't have to be that way. But it's something that's just built in. And I don't think it's a fair thing at all for there to just be this lack thereof of these of help for men. If we're supposed to be the protectors and the providers, then we need someone to be able to help us. And that's mostly why a man would want to be married to someone. Like, it's because they see in that person a partner that they can share themselves and everything about them with. And I imagine it's largely exactly the same for a woman. I'm not a woman, so I can't say. But I imagine it's exactly the same. And when you find that person that you want to get married to, you want to be able to be you 100% with them. And when you can't, you just start to fall to the wayside. Again, you're not always going to be able to agree on everything. You're not always going to be able to do everything you want. But there's supposed to be compromise. It's supposed to be give and take. And when you don't have that, I, it will lead to infidelity. It will lead to disloyalty. It will lead to fights and arguments. And it will lead to a lot of emotional damage. So again, trying to speak through my own experience and things that I've seen in other people, I can understand why cheating happens. I do understand fully why it happens. I don't think it's the best option. I don't think it's the best choice. I don't think it's the thing that people should do. But I get it. I get it. I see why it happens. And if we start opening up talks like this and we actually talk to more people and we actually communicate more with each other, we can curb this a lot, especially when you're in a marriage and you want to be with the person you're with. You don't want your marriage to end. You want to spend your life with that person. The best thing you can do is communicate and listen. You listen to the other person's grievances and don't diminish them because they may be in conflict with your own feelings. What you need to do at that point is reconcile what's wrong. Talk with your partner about how you both can compromise with each other and find a middle ground that works for you. If you feel like they are that important to you, then you do that. It shouldn't be pushed on one person to try to fix the whole of a relationship when it's not one person in the relationship. And many times when someone cheats, it's put on them to fix the relationship. It is put on them to fix the relationship because apparently they're the one that broke it. Sometimes that is the case. It's not always the case, though. It's not always the case. And oftentimes, from what I have seen and experienced, when a man cheats on a woman and she asks him why he did it, she doesn't want to hear why he actually did it until she can use that as a weapon against him during an argument. Again, this is what I have seen and this is what I have experienced. I know it's not 100% all the time. But just from the patterns I've noticed of things that I've looked into, and again, things that I've seen in other people, for me, I get an understanding as to what happened. At least from what I'm seeing. I can't say for certain until I would actually personally talk with people and find out what's going on with them. But from a cursory glance and just seeing how behaviors are going back and forth among people, I can generally tell that, hey, somebody's hurting very badly and they acted out of that pain. And it's hard for the partner to just see, it's hard for the partner to recognize that most of the time because they're emotionally hurt now too. It's very hard for them to see that. Very, very hard for them to see that because of how badly hurt they are at that point. But those who have the wherewithal and the wisdom to see, you know, you messed up. and I am hurt. And I'm going to air out why I'm hurt with you. I'm going to talk to you why I'm hurt. And I want to find out what's wrong with you. Why do you feel like you have to do this? Or why did you feel the need to do this? And if you are genuine in that, and you actually put your time forward to find out what was wrong, what was causing them to do what they did, what was causing them to feel the hurt that they felt, that they went and hurt you, you can work on your relationship. But you're not going to be able to work on the relationship if you're constantly guilting them over what they've done wrong. You're not going to be able to fix it because at that point you are submerging yourself in that hurt to use it against them. You are submerging yourself in that hurt to use it as a weapon against them. And all that's going to do is make them not want to communicate with you, because eventually they'll not want to talk. They won't want to leave you, but at the same time, they're not going to want to talk. And again, it sucks. It's something that we can fix if we work toward fixing it. Because I'm of the mindset now, with all of the stuff that I've learned and recently, that a lot of people who do cheat don't actually want to cheat on the people that they're with. They would rather not do it. But there's something pushing them to it because of a lack of something in the relationship that they're in. And a lot of time it's because there's unwillingness in their partner to even communicate with them about the issue, or to allow them to communicate without being shot down or talked down to about what they're feeling. So I think that is something to keep in mind when you talk to your partner, if you have been in a relationship where your partner is the cheater. If you've been in a relationship where you are the cheater, you also, it is, in a way, more your responsibility to fix what is wrong. But not everything falls to you. It's got to be something where both of you work on things. You may have to work a little harder because you were the one that stepped out of line. But it is, at the end of the day, up to the two of you together to work on your relationship. At the end of the day, it is up to the pairing to work on their relationship, not just the person who was wrong, or the person that stepped out of line, I should say. And that is the truth. It's not always just the person that stepped out of line that's wrong. Again, there are some exceptions to that, but that's not really the rule. The rule, more like, is that a lot of people don't feel fully fulfilled with the people that they're with. And it's not because they don't want to be with that person. It's not because they don't appreciate that person. It's not that they don't care about that person. But oftentimes, their wants and needs with the person, especially their needs with the person that they're with, may get ignored, or they may get treated as if they don't matter. And it is hard to just say, hey, I need you to just talk to me, and for us to go do something I would like to do after you've cheated on someone. It's an extremely difficult thing to do, because at that point you've already messed up and you're going to feel selfish to ask the person that you're with to do anything like that for a good while. I understand that fully. But you at some point have to give self-care a thought. You have to give self-care a thought, because if you don't, you're going to feel worse, and eventually the person that you're with is going to become unbearable at some point for you. And it's not because you don't want to be with them, and I don't even think it's not because they don't want to be with you, but there has to be open communication. There has to be open talking. There has to be compromise and common ground on both sides. It can't just be one-sided. Doesn't matter who messed up. Whether it was a physical thing, whether it was emotional, it doesn't matter. The thing is, if you want to fix the relationship, then you need to talk. You need to communicate, and you need to allow each other to validate their reasoning as to why they did what they did, or why they had been emotionally distant, or why they pulled away. Because the talking and communicating will help that. And then after you do that, it goes into putting things into action and actually putting the effort behind the words. Because I can tell you guys from my own personal experience, and my ex has said this to me multiple times, after we've talked, and the times that she did listen, and I got back in the right path, and I was on the corrected path, I'd be there for a little while. I'd be there for months at a time before I started slinking back away. And it's mostly because, and she probably wouldn't admit this, but it's mostly because I put in all the effort to fix my side of things, but then she didn't. She didn't. And to me, that made me feel like I wasn't worth anything to her. And I know there are plenty of men and women that feel that way. And just because you were the one that stepped out doesn't mean you don't have any worth. Everyone has some sort of worth. And it's up to you and your partner to determine that between the two of you. But again, it all boils down to communication. It all boils down to talking and allowing each other to have what they have to say without judging or prejudicing against them. And then you can work on fixing things. But I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot more to say. But I just hope that this is helpful to someone. That somebody gets what I'm saying here. I know this is long-winded, and this is something you have to sit down and listen to for a while. But I just want people to get to understand where I'm coming from. And that maybe this will help some relationships in the long run. If somebody hears this, and they could be on the brink of ending something that could be very meaningful. And it could be an extremely meaningful relationship. There could be a lot of history in it. And maybe you just need a reset. Maybe you just need to start back over from square one. And this is how you do it. This is how you do it, is by communicating. And, sometimes, like maybe wiping the slate clean. And starting over fresh. Getting to know each other from the bottom up. That could save a relationship. That could very well save a relationship. Especially if you feel like it's something extremely important to you. Especially if you feel like the person that you're with is worth it. And if you feel that way, then you'll put the effort in for them. And if you're the person that was cheated on, you will not ridicule your partner for what they did. And if you're the person that cheated, you won't hold it over your partner's head every now and again when they bring it back up, as long as it's not a constant thing. If it's a constant thing, it's not going to work out. But if every once in a while they feel like they need reassurance from you, you have to give it to them. And you have to show them. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to show them that you want to be there with them and that you care about them and that you don't want to do that again. Because that's the person that you care about. That's who you want to be with. But also the person that was cheated on, you can't act holier than thou either. You can't act like you do nothing wrong. Because there had to have been something wrong, and you had to have played some part in it for that to happen. Unless your partner just wants to do it. Again, there are exceptions to the rule. That's why I'll throw that caveat in every now and again. But in the long run, it is up to the two people in the relationship to fix the relationship. It's never a one-sided deal. As much as people would like to believe it is, it's never a one-sided deal, and it should never be treated as a one-sided deal because all it does is cause more problems and complications. But I don't have anything else that I can espouse on this right this moment. Again, I have plenty more discussions I want to make and more things that I want to talk about. And I'm definitely more on to trying to find an avenue for helping with men's mental health in ways that I don't see are available to people. And this is one way to get that started and to get the ball rolling in that direction. Because again, I noticed a lot of those patterns in myself, and I noticed a lot of them in other people and things that I've seen. But that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening. I appreciate that you spent the time sitting through this, and hopefully this is helpful to someone. And maybe through my own negative experiences, I can help somebody save their relationship and save something that might be precious. But that's it. Everybody, enjoy your life. Peace out.